What's up, guys? Welcome back to another spine-chilling episode. Before we dive in, let me read you something that'll make your blood run cold. I am parked directly under the harsh, buzzing, fluorescent canopy of a 24-hour fuel station. I have locked all 4 doors. My eyes saw a tired family, but my dashcam saw rotting corpses smiling at me. These are real Reddit posts. Real people who experience things that will haunt them forever. And number 1 will stay with you long after you turn off the lights. Let's count down the top 5 scariest night shift stories from Reddit. Number 5, I taught my dog to use talking buttons. What she told me terrified me. You know those viral videos of dogs using buttons to communicate? Well, this story will make you think twice about teaching your pet to talk. Cookie was a high-energy Papillon mix with big furry ears, and her owner had taught her to use 20 different talking buttons. Words like food, play, outside, and stranger. Everything seemed normal at first. Cookie would press the buttons to ask for food, to go outside, the usual stuff. But then one night, something changed. The owner was fast asleep when they heard their own recorded voice echoing from the living room, stranger. The sound of Cookie's little paws pattering across the floor. Then again, stranger, outside. Can you imagine lying there in the dark, knowing your dog is trying to warn you about something? The owner's heart was pounding as they huddled under the blankets, too terrified to investigate. They lay there in complete silence, listening to Cookie's footsteps wandering around the house. Finally, Cookie pressed food a few times and came back to bed. In the morning, they searched around the house but found nothing. They even Googled it and found out this happens to other pet owners too. But here's where it gets really unsettling. A few days later, Cookie pressed stranger and ran to the door, growling. This time, she was right. A UPS driver was approaching. She rarely barked, but her hackles were raised, tail down, ears flat. She kept making this low, threatening rumble in her throat. The driver was actually impressed by the button system and asked if it really worked. That's when Cookie pressed outside and then food, mad. The owner laughed it off, saying sometimes she presses them randomly. But deep down, they knew Cookie understood more than they wanted to admit. And late at night, when stranger echoes through your house, how do you know if your pet is warning you about someone outside or something that's already inside? Number 4, my wife works downtown. No one has left her building in 48 hours. Sometimes the most terrifying stories start with something completely ordinary, a spouse working late, a text that goes unanswered. But what happens when ordinary becomes impossible to explain? It started as just another late night at the office. She said she'd be working late, and he went to bed expecting to find her there in the morning. But when he woke up, her side of the bed was cold and empty. He convinced himself she must have come home late and left early. People do that, right? Work hard, keep grinding. He sent her a text at 8:48 a.m. Work's really killing you, huh? But something felt wrong. He realized he didn't even fully understand what her new job entailed. Project manager, she'd said. Something about neural networks and visual processing. They were working on a big deliverable. Hours passed with no response. He called her phone and got that silly voicemail she'd recorded months ago, the one where she was imitating Rihanna and broke into laughter at the end. But this time, it didn't make him smile. When 10 p.m. rolled around and she still hadn't come home, He called the police. That's when things got really strange. The officer on the phone was patient at first, asking the usual questions. But when he mentioned the building where she worked, there was a long pause. "Sir," the officer said slowly, "we've been getting calls about that building all day. No one has left that building in 48 hours. The security cameras showed people going in for work as normal, but the footage of people leaving, it was corrupted. Every single exit, every single camera. And the people inside? They'd stopped answering their phones. The building's front desk wasn't picking up. The security company had lost contact with their guards. It was as if everyone who entered that building had simply vanished into their work." The husband's blood ran cold. How do you explain an entire office building where people check in but never check out, where dozens of employees seem to exist in a space that has somehow become separate from the outside world, and somewhere in that building, his wife was still working on her project, or something was working on her? Number 3, I bought talking buttons for my cat, but the cat wasn't the only one who used them. This story comes from a father whose world was shattered in the cruelest way possible. His son Vin had received a scholarship to his dream college. He and his boyfriend were celebrating, driving home on icy roads, feeling on top of the world. But winter roads don't care about your dreams. His son didn't survive the crash. The boyfriend did. Can you imagine that kind of grief? The father says you either understand the loss of a child or you don't. There's no middle ground. He didn't weep at the funeral. He became stone, an object. All the sorrow was locked away, unreachable. Instead of feeling, he found himself thinking about the pistol in his closet. He'd take it out sometimes, just sit with it, feeling its weight. But there was one thing keeping him tethered to this world. His son's cat, Terrible Terry. She was the angriest little tabby you've ever seen, and she'd only ever loved Vin. Now she spent hours on the windowsill in his bedroom, the same spot where she used to watch him play piano. Vin had bought those talking buttons, the ones that let pets communicate. The father thought they were nonsense, but his son had set them up anyway. Words like food, cuddle, outside, music, dad, and Vinny. After the accident, the buttons sat silent. Until one night when the father heard a sound from his son's room, a button being pressed, but not by the cat. The cat was on the windowsill, hadn't moved. The button pressed was Vinny, then music, then, soft as a whisper, Dad. The father's hands shook as he approached the room. The buttons had been pressed, but no one was there. Just Terrible Terry, still motionless on the sill, and the ghost of a boy who loved music and talking cats. Some loves are so strong they transcend death. And sometimes the dead find ways to reach out, to let you know they're still there, still caring, still trying to comfort you from beyond. Even if it's just through a cat's talking buttons, pressed by invisible hands that remember how to say, "I love you, Dad." Number 2. For the last 30 years, I have been paid to guard a single gravestone. Imagine getting a job offer that literally falls into your lap. Not metaphorically, literally. This man was at the lowest point of his life, 32 years old, dumped by the love of his life, his journalism career in shambles. He'd gotten drunk and written the worst article of his life, then passed out at his desk. When he woke up, there were papers scattered in his lap. including a letter that definitely wasn't there before. A stark white envelope with a wax seal. He lived alone. Completely alone. So how did this letter get there? Inside was a job offer from mysterious benefactors. The job? Guard a single gravestone at Blackstone Cemetery from sundown to sunup, 4 nights a week. The pay was incredible, way more than his journalism work. The letter said they'd been watching him, that he was perfect for the position. All he had to do was call a number and contact them if anything out of the ordinary happened. When he called, all he heard was static and shallow breathing. He said 2 words, "I accept." They hung up. The next letter contained his schedule and instructions. For 30 years, he's been sitting in that cemetery, staring at a weathered gravestone. The name is so worn away, he can only make out a B and an R. Death date, 1872. That's it. For 3 decades, he's watched this grave, 4 nights a week, every week. And the terrifying part, he's never told us what those out-of-the-ordinary things are that he's supposed to report. What has he seen in 30 years of graveyard shifts? What crawls out of a grave that's been dead for over 150 years? What kind of employer pays someone for 3 decades to watch a single grave and never reveals who they are? And most chilling of all, what's been watching him back from that weathered stone, night after night, year after year? Some jobs change you, and some jobs choose you. Number 1, I'm a highway patrol officer. My eyes saw a tired family, but my dashcam saw rotting corpses smiling at me. This is the story that will haunt you. A highway patrol officer with 2 years on the force, known for being strict, thorough, and completely by the book. He patrols a desolate stretch of highway that runs between a deep lake and dense pine forest. 40 miles of nothing but darkness, fog, and the occasional long-haul trucker. It's 2:15 a.m. when he spots a dark minivan ahead of him, driving well under the speed limit, weaving slowly between lanes. One taillight is burned out. Classic signs of a tired driver, maybe someone under the influence. He follows protocol perfectly. Calls in the stop, approaches at the correct angle, runs the plates. Through the rear window, he can see what looks like a family. Driver, passenger, and what appears to be kids in the back. When he reaches the driver's window, he sees a middle-aged man who looks exhausted, bloodshot eyes, pale skin, the kind of bone-deep tiredness that comes from driving all night. The man's wife is slumped against the passenger window, apparently asleep. In the back seat, 2 children, also sleeping. The officer explains about the taillight, asks for license and registration. The man complies, speaking in a slow, tired voice. Everything seems routine. Just a tired family, driving through the night. The officer issues a warning, tells them to get the light fixed, be safe. As he walks back to his patrol car, something makes him look at his dashcam footage. What he sees on that screen makes his blood turn to ice. In the dashcam footage, that tired family, they're not tired. They're dead. Horribly, obviously dead. The father's face is rotting, chunks of flesh hanging from his skull. The mother's head is twisted at an impossible angle, her neck clearly broken. And the children in the back, they're decomposing, their small bodies contorted and wrong. But the most terrifying part? In the dashcam footage, they're all smiling, wide, impossible smiles on their rotting faces, all looking directly at the camera, looking directly at him. The officer is now parked at a gas station, doors locked, engine running, surrounded by concrete and artificial light. His hands won't stop shaking. Because he followed that family for miles, watched them drive away into the darkness. And somewhere out there, on that lonely highway between the lake and the forest, a car full of the dead is still driving through the night, still smiling, still looking for their next encounter with the living. Some things your eyes can lie about, but cameras see the truth. And sometimes the truth is something that should have stayed buried.